Good evening, YouTube. Robert Alvarez, the Psychic Witch, also known as Mr. Lighting on a Fan. Good evening to all of you in YouTube land. I hope you and yours are happy and healthy and safe and well. Right now the time is approximately 8:17 p.m. Eastern Time, and the date is Monday, May 1st, 2023. To my fellow witches and magical practitioners, today is Beltane, the witch's summer, and it is absolutely a time of fertility, of creativity, of sexual expression, and it is a time of beginning to experience the heat of summer, an increase in creativity, and of course, may the great goddess bless all of you and yours with ever-increasing amounts of love and money and creativity. Also, it is interesting to note that Pluto began retrograding in Aquarius today. I must admit, I've never really had the greatest ease in interpreting the outer planets, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. I have, when a client has asked me to do an astrological analysis for them. But I must admit, when I saw that Pluto began retrograding in Aquarius today, my first thought was, I feel like there's a pause in the revolution. But that would be more if it was Uranus retrograding in Aquarius. Pluto retrograding in Aquarius tells me that there are plans that are being made behind the scenes with regards to upcoming revolutions. But nothing is going to happen anytime soon. But don't quote me on that. Anyway, so not too long ago, I raved about a deck. And I wanted to do a full walkthrough and also talk about the deck. So the deck is called the Sorcery Underground Fortune Telling Deck by Brian David Macdonald. And I want to show you the cover of the guidebook. It's guidebook, pamphlet, you know what I mean. But I find it interesting. Well, first of all, I didn't expect this because one of the things that Mr. Macdonald wrote about in the description on his Etsy shop is that it's a combination of tarot, oracle cards, Lenormand, and classical cartomancy, which is more commonly known as playing card divination. But I do want to show you this page because it has a card that is exclusive to the deck, which I'm actually surprised that I forgot about until I was organizing the cards in order to do this video. And it's card number 22, Prudence. And what also threw me off is that it's elementally associated with the element of water. Because for modern tarotists, the Hanged Man, key 12, is astrologically and alchemically aligned with the element of water. Although, I believe, no, actually that's the ancient and traditional correspondence. The modern correspondence is the planet Pluto, I believe. Because I know that Uranus is, no, it's Neptune. Uranus is the Fool, traditionally the element of air, and Judgment, the element of fire traditionally, but in a modern context, the planet Pluto. Now I'm remembering correctly. So I will show you all of the cards in the deck. There are 81 in total. But this is how Mr. Macdonald has it in the guidebook. You know, and the suit of mysteries is the major arcana. And then we go to the suit of hearts, emotions, love, water, feeling, spring. The suit of clubs, doing, action, fire, passion, summer. The suit of diamonds, money, objects, earth, material, autumn, as in the material world. And then we have, I passed the suit of spades. The suit of spades, thoughts, worries, air, sorrows, winter. And you will see the associations elementally and astrologically with the minor arcana of the tarot. So, and for the record, it came in, actually it came wrapped up in a small pouch that was tied with, with twine. I gave it its own velveteen or velvet tarot pouch for it. So anyway, although I need to start calling them card pouches because that's really what they are for me. So here we go. We're going to start with the Fool. And I love the fact that the names of the major arcana are in French. So if you're studying French or if you're learning French, this deck is a great aid in helping you learn French. And also learn some terms that you may not be familiar with, that are not common, like une prouesse, the priestess. My French is a bit rusty, so I'm not going to pronounce all the major arcana cards. And of course, I love the fact that the Emperor card in this deck depicts Napoleon Bonaparte. I also love the fact that the cards depict their astrological associations. Now, what's also interesting, and I didn't realize this initially, is that there are geomantic associations on the card. Actually, no, there are not. There are not. But there are additional symbols other than the astrological symbols. And I found that very intriguing. You know, looking at this strength card, I can't help but wonder who this saint is. Part of me wants to say it's a representation of Saint Bridget, who is both goddess and saint. But looking at the dragons behind her, I can't help but think about, well, I know her as Marta la Dominadora, or in English, Martha the Dominatrix, or Saint Martha the Dominatrix. And I also love the fact that the major arcana depicts many different cultures and many different types of images. I mean, we have the Christian religious iconography. We have a frog skeleton on the death card. We had a scene of the pharaoh Tutankhamun riding into battle. We even have some notables in history like Napoleon Bonaparte. And some cards are very mystical. For example, the star card depicts a 7-pointed star, which I first learned of as meaning of it being called a fairy star. Of course, a 7-pointed star also relates to the 7 star sisters of the Pleiades. And then, of course, some of the images are very classical. For example, the sun in this tarot deck. This is a sun that I've seen depicted on various covers and interior art of The Only Astrology Book You'll Ever Need by Joanna Martine Woolfolk, which, by the way, if you do not have that book, let me assure you it absolutely lives up to its title. I still have the first version, and I purchased the second edition, which had a CD-ROM. Remember those? That is card 21, the world, le monde. And then you have card 22, prudence, which is its own card. It is exclusive to this deck. And the next 2 cards are also exclusive to this deck. As above, so below. And I'm going to do a quick check with Drake. Drake, those 2 cards can be seen. Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you, Drake. Now we get to the classical cartomancy and the irregular playing card divination portion, as well as the Lenormand portion of the deck. So here we have the Ace of Hearts as well as the House. The House is a pretty common and well-known card associated with Lenormand. And for the record, not all of the additional symbols are going to be from Lenormand. For example, Cupid and a rose, or what looks like a rose, I've never seen on a Lenormand deck. Same thing with a bottle of wine, grapes, and a glass of wine, which is clearly not filled with enough wine. Not as far as I'm concerned. Clover is absolutely from Lenormand. And here we have a cracked mirror. I must admit, sometimes I look at this card because sometimes at first glance it looks like a spider and its web in the center of a glass mirror. Or rather a small, looking glass type mirror. But no, it's cracked in the middle, in the heart of the mirror. And then we have a stork on the 6 of hearts. There is no candle in Lenormand. This card looks like a garden to me. And I'm just going to quickly look it up. A garden gate. So it absolutely has an association with the garden card, which in some Lenormand decks is called the park. I now have 2 decks that have a card that depict a wishbone. The other deck is called the Conjure Cards by Jack Richards, if I remember correctly. And then, of course, we have a lily, which is absolutely a well-known Lenormand card. And we have 4 court cards in hearts. So it would be very easy for me to say that this is the princess or the page. The knight. Although there is a Lenormand card called the rider, as in the one who rides the horse, also known as the messenger. We have the Queen of Hearts, looking very fancy. And then we have the King of Hearts with a dog, which is another common Lenormand card. We have the Ace of Clubs, and a fireplace. And you'll notice that there is a number on each of the cards. For example, the 2 of Clubs has the number 40 on it. Makes me think of the 40-Day Prosperity Plan by the late and great Dr. John Randolph Price. Every time I see this card, to me it is first and foremost about a partnership, and definitely the beginnings of a friendship. I do not see this in any way, shape, or form as the possibility of a romance. If there were surrounding cards, then I would see if there's any potential for a romance. But to me, that is first and foremost a business partnership, and secondarily, that is a friendship. And then we have the 3 of Clubs, which depicts the key. Ooh, the key is probably one of the most positive cards in Lenormand. Lenormand, for those of you who don't know, has its positive cards, its negative cards, and its neutral cards. Here we have the 4 of Clubs with a bell. And it's almost like a bell that one would see festooned as part of decorations for a celebration, like, let's say, a wedding, a grand opening of a new store, the launching of a business. 5 of Clubs, and I would know the whip anywhere. The whip and the scythe, I always watch out for, because traditionally those cards together are definite confirmation about danger. 6 of Clubs, and this looks like a medal, but it could also look like a sheriff's badge. But looking at the top part, I'm getting that it's a medal of some kind. 7 of Clubs, and we have the Mountain. Definitely a Lenormand card. Eight of Clubs, and we have a garden path or a garden gate. 46. Yeah, garden path, and it's related to card 32, which is the garden gate. And then we have the 9 of Clubs and a beehive. Don't get stung. You know, just wait for the honey to come to you. Don't run after the honey. Don't force the honey. Let the honey come to you. 10 of Clubs, and we have this donkey that has 2 very heavy baskets overflowing with golden coins. Clearly somebody's hard work is paying off. And then we have the Page of Clubs, or Page of Wands if you prefer, and a fox. By the way, fun fact, if you're asking about a cat, you can substitute the fox card. Although some expanded Lenormand decks will have a cat card. But this one, but yeah, if you don't have an expanded Lenormand deck and you only have one that has 36 cards and you're asking about a cat, use the fox card as your significator. And here we have a knight, literally a knight, although actually technically given the nature of this deck it would be a Jack of clubs and a lion. Queen of clubs and an all-seeing wide open third eye. I do love this card, and I've often used, and this card for me would be the High Priestess of the regular playing card portion of this deck. And then we have the King of Clubs. And I must admit, I found the Christian iconography of Jesus as the shepherd and a sheep a bit of a surprise. It wasn't an unpleasant surprise. It was actually, oh, this is a cool surprise, you know? I mean, I may be a happily recovered Catholic, but I can appreciate Catholicism and Christianity. And then appropriately, we have a treasure chest on the Ace of Diamonds, card number 53. There are 81 cards in total. I've noticed there are some decks that I see advertised on the internet, like Oracle card decks or divination decks, and they don't list the number of cards. And I'm like, why aren't you doing that? Because you know, I want to know that. And then we have the Two of Diamonds with the pair of scales that are completely balanced. Three of Diamonds and the letters. Traditionally, the Lenormand card is called the letter because it depicts one letter. Sometimes it's in the envelope, sometimes it's open and on top of or near the envelope. But this one looks like it has more than one envelope, or rather more than one letter. Yeah, it really does look like more than one letter to me. And then we have the Four of Diamonds and the Anchor, which makes perfect sense because the Anchor is a card of stability. And Four of Diamonds to me would represent financial stability. It would represent having just enough. Not too much, not too little, but just enough. Five of Diamonds and the Church. I know some of you are like, that looks familiar, that sounds familiar. Especially with regards to another 5 card. Pentacles. Six of Diamonds, and we have a fish. I don't remember if this is the fish of Lenormand, because usually those fish are alive. This one looks like it's been well cooked. Yeah. I love the sand dollar on the Seven of Diamonds. Now this card from the very beginning has always intrigued me. Eight of Diamonds. Now notice the Eight of Diamonds form a heart-like shape. And directly underneath the lowest diamond is an anvil. So for me, this card is always saying, protect your heart. In other words, don't let somebody rip your heart out of your chest and then slap it onto an anvil and crush it with a hammer. So protect your heart, especially if you're beginning a new romantic relationship. And mind you, diamonds have nothing to do directly or indirectly with romantic relationships. That would be the hearts. And then here is the Nine of Diamonds, and the 9 diamonds form one large diamond, and there's a bee, and yes, it is a honeybee. So some sweetness is coming into somebody's life. That's sweet money. 10 of Diamonds, and a pig. The pig took me back a little bit, and then I remembered about pork bellies. Like there's some kind of investment thing with pork bellies, and I was like, oh, that's the big ass pork belly. That's a big profit. Look at that big pork, big old pig. That's profit, man. And then we have the Page of Diamonds, depicting a book. Book, as a Lenormand card, it can be it's neutral, some would say. It's not necessarily positive by itself. Depends on the surrounding cards. It's not necessarily negative, but again, depends on the surrounding cards. The two main interpretations for the book symbol in Lenormand are secrets and learning. So, this card next to the heart could mean that the person with whom you're going to be married is not the person you thought they were, just as an example. And seeing the book, if you're a student, is always a reasonable expectation and a good sign. And then we have the Knight of Diamonds and railroad, or a portion of a railroad track. We have the Queen of Diamonds and the Bear. Bear is a great card with regards to financial questions, especially in Lenormand. And the Queen of Diamonds, or as some of us know her better, Queen of Pentacles, definitely is an indication that this is a card about long-term financial success. And then we have the King of Diamonds. And I don't know, but it looks like this King of Diamonds is not exactly pinching pennies or needing to pinch pennies. Like, seriously, this is a very elaborate dress for a king. Ace of Spades. And of course, most people know the Ace of Spades to be the death card. And here we have the Scythe. This card does not bode well, especially since one of the traditional meanings of the Scythe card and Lenormand is danger. Two of Spades and a pair of scissors. And those pair of scissors look like the ones that Atropos would use to cut the thread of life. She decides you're done, clip, snip, that's it for you. Three of Spades, a mouse. Some Lenormand decks depict mice, some depict a mouse, but for the most part it's mice, usually 2 or 3. And it is definitely a card of something being depleted. Next to the tree card, for example, in a Lenormand reading, it's about one's health and well-being, one's energy, one's vitality, one's immune system being depleted and diminished, being eaten away. And look at that, 4 of Spades and the tree. The tree in Lenormand is usually the symbol of health. And it's about a health issue, or it's about one's general state of health, or rather more specifically, the client's general state of health. I'm going to have a sip of tea. It's a lemon ginger tea. Unfortunately, I do not taste the lemon, or the ginger, or the lime, the juice that I added to it. I can taste a little bit of the honey now. But the great goddess wanted to show me not to buy this brand anymore. I won't mention the brand, but if you ask, I'll mention it. But, for now, I'm just going to say no more to that brand. And then we have the 5 of Spades and the clouds. You really can't see it much, but these are the darker clouds, and these are the lighter clouds. So if, let's say, I was looking at, let's say that we were just focusing on the Lenormand cards, or the Lenormand symbols. Tree to the left of the clouds, and ship to the right of the clouds. That would be an indication that a health problem is going to require you to cancel your trip to another country. Or, said another way, a health issue will prevent you from accepting that professional opportunity. Because remember, there was a time when there was no internet, there was no airmail. Commerce was conducted by ship, or rather via the ocean. And 6 of Spades. By the way, this is another one of the more positive cards of a Lenormand deck, or rather the ship card. And this depicts the seven of spades. Wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, seven of spades and a snake. And in this deck, it's a cobra. So you know, this is not a card that bodes for something happy and peppy and bursting with love. I wonder if any of you watching this video know from which TV series that line is. I know. And then we have the Eight of Spades, and we have an empty bird cage. You know, that reminds me, years ago, and we're talking like almost 20 years ago, there was this cafe, and it was on Greenwich Avenue. No, it was on Greenwich Street in the Greenwich Village district of Manhattan. And I remember that looking directly at the restaurant on the right side, or in the vicinity of the right window, to the right of the door, there was this open bird cage. And inside was a table and 2 chairs, and, you know, and it seemed like the most popular table. And I'm like, and I'm looking at this like, I would not sit in that. If that was the only table available, I would not sit in there. Because you want to know something? A cage is still a cage. Open or closed, pretty or ugly, a cage is still a cage. I'm like, I'm not sitting in there. I love being free. No, I'm not sitting in there. And people would sit in there, they'd take photographs. I'd be like, oh, okay. You're taking a photograph of yourself in a cage. Okay, that's kudos to you. Oh, I was like, what symbol is that? Okay, 3, 5, 8, 9. 9 of spades and the birds. Oh, that sounds so ominous. Because there's a horror movie called The Birds. But no, these are the birds that twit around and, you know. This card to me is screaming, watch out for malicious gossip. You know what you need to do about that, right? The freeze spell. 10 of spades, and of course, a coffin. And there is a coffin card in Lenormand. The coffin card is about a stop. Like something needs to end, something needs to stop, somebody needs to go. You know, like, bye Felicia, or boy bye, or girl bye, or bye bitch. You know, it just depends on the situation. Here we have the prince. No, we have, we have the junior prince, or the page, that's the word I was looking for, the page of spades, and here's a black cat. So if you had this deck, you could easily use this card to represent a cat about which you're inquiring. And yes, as somebody that always has had at least one black cat as an adult, I'm very happy with this black cat depicted here. Here we have the Knight of Spades, and how appropriate, we also have the Rider, also known as the Messenger. Queen of Spades, and I would swear that this looks like a lightning strike. And it looks like the Queen of Spades is in front of something, like a doorway. But that to me looks like lightning. I mean, it could be a branch, but my first thought was that's lightning. And of course, given the equivalent, the tarot equivalent of Queen of Swords, that kind of makes sense. And then we have, appropriately, the King of Spades. And it's funny, I would call that a castle, but the word citadel came into my mind. Capital C-I-T-A-D-E-L, Citadel. And that's actually the name of a TV series, a streaming series on Amazon Prime, if I'm not mistaken. The cards are bridge size, I believe that's what they're called, and this is the back of the card design, which kind of reminded me of the Rider-Waite-Smith, because I know that the Rider-Waite-Smith has a plaid back, card back, though I find this one more visually appealing than that one. And I inadvertently gave it a matching or somewhat matching card pouch. Really love this deck. Oh, in case you're wondering, I will link the Etsy shop in the description box for this video. I will say that when I was preparing this video, I took a look, and there are no decks available right now, but you can certainly message, you know what, I'll message the individual and ask him, ask Mr. Macdonald if there are any more coming. Because I must admit, I actually would be keen on giving myself my own copy of this deck, one that is for my exclusive use. So I hope you enjoyed this full walkthrough of the Sorcery Underground Fortune-Telling deck created by Brian David Macdonald. And if you do purchase your own copy, feel free to mention this video. And I will mention this video to Mr. Macdonald, but after it's published. And I think that's it. I wish all of you a beautiful night, a wonderful week, and stay tuned for the next video.